Let me ask you a question. Is there a single instance in corporate America where DEI is implemented where diversity means anything other than skin color diversity?
So diversity.
No, it's not about viewpoint.
Women.
What? Fine. How about?
Fine. 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 Fine.
And then it's going to take the entire time.
You're welcome.
30 on, 30 off.
How do you feel about the Senate?
As far as her tie-breaking vote of the Senate?
No. I'm just saying like Senate. Like the Senate is technically DEI in a certain sense for like small states. Like Wyoming gets people in Wyoming get a greater vote than me in California.
Like Rhode Island and Hawaii.
I'm giving you an example. California.
This was the crown jewel of the conversation. This point that this kid just brought up is the crown jewel of this conversation. And his argument makes a lot of sense. If all the states do not have the same population, but all the states get to have 2 senators, why is California with a population of 38 million people having 2 senators, and then Wyoming with a population of around 500,000 having 2 senators? It means that for every 19 million Californians, you have 1 senator representing them, and 250,000 Wyomingians, you have 1 senator representing them. You can see that Wyoming has an oversized influence in the Senate. So why was it designed in such a way? It's literally DEI. You don't want the smaller states to become subsumed by the will of the bigger states. So you have to find a way to balance it out. In a normal sense, the number of Senate states should be tied to the population of the states so that bigger states will have more senators. But that's not the case.
Yeah, I get less of a vote than someone who exists in Wyoming. So
Exactly.
we're giving people in Wyoming more say than they necessarily should, given that they're one individual. So why do you believe in DEI as it relates to how our government is set up? But you don't believe in DEI in terms of allowing for people who are Black or who are women to be in positions of power that they have not been allowed in, historically speaking.
So is the Electoral College and the Senate based on race?
It's predicated.
Now, this just reveals Charlie Kirk's either his ignorance or his bias or whatever you want to put it that way. When he hears DEI, what comes to his mind is race, and not just race, Black. That's what comes to his mind. But is that what DEI is? Is diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is it a synonym for race? Is it a synonym for getting Black people into positions? No.
Off of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right?
That?
Like inclusion of.
We just gave an
country.
example of how DEI functions in politics. Even looking at the Electoral College, that is literally DEI, because not all the states have different electoral college votes, but it's not proportional to the population. California has 54 electoral college votes. That's about 700,000 people to 1 electoral college vote. Wyoming has 3. That's about 189,000 people to 1 electoral college vote. So Wyoming has an outsized influence in the election compared to California. I'm not certain, but I think that part of the reason why you have the electoral college system is such that the big states do not use their population size to bully the other states, because states are treated as individual units of their own. If you don't have it in that sort of way, it means that the big states are going to be the ones picking the president or making certain decisions all the time because they have the population to do so. So to ensure that there is diversity, there is equity and inclusion, you have things like 2 senators per state, or you have things like the Electoral College. That's literally DEI.
Areas, inclusion of rural areas, inclusion of white men like you.
Okay, so you mean like Hawaii?
Now he's acting confused. He knows he's been had, but he's going to be acting confused.
I'm referencing, you could say smaller states or places that have less people in it.
So
obviously would be able to have more of a say per individual.
So your argument is that the U.S. Senate is a DEI? I gotta be honest, I've never heard that argument, but I think it's a little silly. But
how is it silly? Argue against it instead of just saying it's silly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. So it's silly on its face because, first of all, we have on the House of Representatives is proportional to population.
Oh, second, but the Senate isn't. So it's DEI.
It's not DEI.
Yes, it is.
Why would you say it's diversity, equity, inclusion? Because Wyoming gets 2 senators. They're their own sovereign state, aren't they?
For country areas, for rural areas, equity for rural areas.
That's not
right,
the
for
Isn't
smaller
it surprising that this kid knows more about politics, understands more about the political system than Charlie Kirk? It's surprising, right?
So let's go back to the Federalist Papers and the Founding Fathers. Why was the Senate composed?
Can you tell me why it's not DEI? Like under your definition, why is it not DEI?
Because it's not based on race. And by the way,
it doesn't have to be based on race.
It's not based on equity, and it's not based
now
on
this
inclusion.
is where the kid knocks him out. This is where he knocks Charlie Kirk out completely.
been.
Can't you have
But
DEI
no, let me-
based upon different
let me tell you
characteristics
why.
other than race?
Let me finish.
Whether or not you're a woman,
Let me
whether or not
let me finish. Why? It's because we are a collection of states. We are not a federal project. So states' rights usurp federal. Do you know what the 17th Amendment is?
do you know why the Articles of Confederation failed?
Yes, but what is the
Why?
10th Amendment?
Because,
Well,
states had too many rights, had too
right.
much power.
What is the 10th
That's why we
Amendment?
specifically adopted the
Parker,
Constitution.
let me make one point, okay?
Go ahead.
Which is, how did we used to elect senators?
It'd be population.
No, we used to elect senators based on state legislatures. So the Senate is an extension of the state legislative bodies. That's not DEI. That's federalism.
No,
That's the way
Yeah,
that our
but is that what it is today? No. What is today? Every state gets 2 senators, isn't it?
system is
You're
set up,
misunderstanding what I'm
which
saying
is a
is DEI.
bottom-up, citizen-led government to allow the states, which are first and foremost sovereign. So it goes in this ladder in this country.
That's still DEI for those states and for those
citizens-
country areas.
No, because it's colorblind. It's not that.
It's
we get white
again,
states
DEI
more
is
and
not
black
only
states
based on
more.
race.
Hold on a second.
Diversity for country, diversity for rural, equity for
So see how Charlie Kirk is going to expose his ignorance about DEI. This is something that he rallies about, the DEI, DEI. He's going to expose his ignorance about DEI. Watch this.
Hold on a
rural
second.
and inclusion of
So,
rural.
well, that's an
That's
interesting, it's an interesting
DEI.
point. So
You think
diversity.
DEI is only race
Let me
because
ask you a
you
question.
associate it with Kamala Harris?
Let me ask you a question. Is there a single instance in corporate America where DEI is implemented where diversity means anything other than skin color diversity?
Just answer that question for yourself. Answer that question for yourself. This moron thinks that when they talk about DEI, it's only about race, it's only about color. Now the kid is going to respond and he's going to admit to his ignorance, but he's going to try to, quickly get away from that point. You see him.
Diversity.
So diversity.
No, it's not
women,
about viewpoint.
women.
What? Fine. How about?
Fine. 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 Really? But he was so confident, he was so cocky that there were no examples of DEI being implemented that wasn't race-based. Like, isn't there quotas? Aren't there quotas for veterans? Aren't there things for disabled people? Are there things for women? Are these not DEI? But he automatically assumes that DEI has to do with black. And he automatically assumes that DEI means unqualified. That's his thinking.
Chromosome or diversity or skin color.
So skin color. There's gender. You have to move the goalpost a little bit because you got destroyed there. Right,
Yep,
but there's
he
also-
got destroyed.
I'm just asking a very
See,
simple.
I mean, look at his face. He can't look at the guy anymore. He's crestfallen. He's looking downwards. He's beaten. He's defeated. He's. How can you get beaten by a kid like this? I mean, Charlie, this is. Come on. This is very disgraceful.
Question. The answer is no, because our system
That
of
doesn't mean
government.
that's not DEI.
Saying,
Still meets your
saying the
definition.
Senate is DEI.
What was your
is-
definition though?
What is?
What was your definition?
Wait,
Diversity,
what-
equity,
what-
inclusion.
what-
Diversity doesn't
Well,
only
hold
apply to
on.
race.
Let me
You're just
tell
saying
you-
other people defined
Parker, let me
diversity,
finish.
equity, inclusion to be
Let me
based on
finish.
race. You didn't though.
Let me finish. Because you're saying you
Finish
didn't earn
what?
it. You know who did earn it? South Dakota and North Dakota when they chartered themselves into states.
Wyoming didn't earn it because
Well,
they have less of a
formed themselves
population.
into a state. Hold on.
Saved by the bell. Saved by the bell. Look at his face. Saved by the bell.